Good morning, how are we doing? So, had a few questions before I jump on and just answer them this morning on this bank holiday Monday. So, is fruit a carb was the first question I had. I've actually done a free seminar, which if you want, just comment below the seminar below, which goes over how to build a nutrition plan for you, which kind of goes over this like carbs, protein, fats, in terms of the nutrients, how they're broken down and what's included in each and how they have an effect on your body. Now, fruit is a carb, and often I actually hear people say to me, oh yeah, I don't eat much carbs. It's quite interesting when, I spoke about this the other day, like we know what to do, but often don't do it. And there's lots of different diets out there, from Slimming World to calorie counting to keto to fasting. And, some of this confusion comes from sometimes that they're like, oh, I limit my carbohydrates, but I can eat as much fruit as I want, as much pasta as I want. I didn't know that was the same thing as another carb. I thought carbs is more processed food. And this is where it can get quite confusing, because a carbohydrate is a carbohydrate, just as simple as that. But often we see processed foods and we call them, I need to cut out the crappy carbs. That gives carbs quite a bad name, because actually the crappy carbs that we're often referring to are often filled with fat and sugar, aka sugar being a carbohydrate, fat being oily, moreish, delicious. Hey Joss, creamy. You look at a cake, it's not just crappy carb, is it? Let's face it, it's fat and sugar put together in a delicious way. That mouthfeel, the crumble, the sugar, the fat sensation on our, like that oily feel that you get in your mouth, all of those things. And that can override satiety, and then we eat more of it. Because if you think about whole foods, natural foods, the reason why they're recommended so much, one of the reasons, not just nutrition and all sorts, but from a point of view of, if you think about how many whole foods are actually high in fat and high in sugar together, it's not too many. So going back on my tangent here, fruit is a carbohydrate. It's a mixture of glucose and fructose, and that's it. And that doesn't mean it's bad at all. We know that there's lots of benefits in terms of fruit, gut health, filling, quite nutritious. So just thought I'd answer that, because I thought if you've got that question, maybe someone else isn't. And it's nice to have these questions, because sometimes we can take them for granted. And a lot of people will say, yeah, I just eat as much fruit as I want. And I know I was talking to a few people before who are in that space, and although that's generally good, and that's generally good advice, because the chances are you might eat less. aka if you just say, just fill up on the fruit, chances are you might eat less of something else. Because if you didn't have the fruit, what might you have instead? Of course, but there might reach a point where that choice that you've now made, like I just eat as much fruit as I want, isn't actually serving you anymore, because you actually need to lower your calories, or you've reached a plateau in somewhere, or we need to look at this a little bit differently. But at the moment, if someone's like, I need to stop eating so many chocolate biscuits, and someone's like, well, just swap it to as much fruit as you want, that might be good advice. Obviously, we know calories in, calories out, but if I take this fruit bowl, for example, in here, it's not as good as it's been once upon a time. Cheeky banana in there. I could go through that because there's so much variety. If there was just 8 apples in there, I'd probably get bored after 2 apples, but I might have an apple, pear, orange, banana now, if I'm really hungry on the go or something, just want something. Now I've had like 400 calories as opposed to going, I'm just bored of eating 2. So it might be that we go, I'll have 2 pieces of fruit in that day. And this is where our conversation went when we had this chat yesterday. So I just thought I'd share that, just in case you were thinking the same. Anyway, that's that. The second one was about apple cider vinegar. If you've heard of that, drop a yes in the comments. Have you heard of apple cider vinegar in terms of burning fat? There's lots going on at the moment online, and you see loads of videos. This is all you need to do to burn fat, is they drop some apple cider vinegar in a meal. Now, apple cider vinegar gets I find it a bit unfair. It gets all the goodness in there in terms of like the media going, apple cider vinegar, you just need to do this. Now, I'm not saying it's pointless, but vinegar is kind of vinegar, really, when it comes to this. Now, they do potentially have an effect on, or essentially short-chain fatty acids in our gut, which may help keep us full and more full, like satisfied, satiated. Now, hey Sandra, hey Karen. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to burn belly fat or anything like that, stomach fat. The wording was something like that in a video that they saw, and they thought, is it worth doing? And I was like, well, I don't want to get your hopes too high because, let's face it, there's no miracle cure out there. But we do know that vinegar, because of the short chain fatty acids it can promote in our gut, like butyrate, if you want to look at it. I actually spoke a bit about this in our in my free gut health talk, actually, which if you want that, just comment with gut health. Can help with satiety, like keeping full. Now, that's not going to directly do anything, but indirectly it might help keep you more full, and you might now have a dressing which is lower in calories than something else, right? So there might be two things playing there. Maybe you start having a salad before a meal. Like there was one study where they, if people have like a salad with some vinegar before their meal, they tended to eat less during the meal, which sounds obvious, but you know, it's quite a good strategy to do it, like a buffet, a barbecue, something like that, potentially. Eating your veg first, you might feel more satisfied, especially if you've gone there really hungry. But vinegar as well could be a good tool in terms of, you know, when you're making dressings, instead of having to use maybe mayonnaise all the time, maybe you can get, you know, vinegar, lemon, maybe a drizzle of olive oil, might be just add that to the salad rather than like lots of mayo, etc. That could be a step in the right direction for some people. So I hope that helps. Little Q&A in there that turned into. Hey Margaret, so any questions on that, do let me know. Remember, next 2 weeks we have a block of people starting next week for our summer shape up program. So if you want to come in for that, comment below with summer and we shall go from there. Enjoy your bank holiday and I'll see you soon. Take care.